You're listening to the Big Blue Marble Podcast with Anwar Knight.
And a very good day to you, my friends. Thanks so much for listening in. It is my hope that you are doing well, and I know that is not an easy thing these days. At the very least, we can certainly keep each other company as we navigate through Wave 3 now of COVID-19. This is episode 24, and a really neat story that comes from, officially, the world's happiest country, that of Finland. The UN does a survey that takes into account a number of things, including life expectancy, economic strength, generosity, as well as social support from friends, etc. And Finland comes on top. The nation is actually quite unique in many ways. Do you know it's the sauna capital of the world? It's estimated around 2 million saunas are in Finland. The population, by the way, is just over 5 million. Finns also drink more coffee per capita than any other country, not just in Europe, but the world. The average Finn consumes 25 pounds of coffee a year. So not only are they happy, but clearly they're also wide awake. Finland is also known as the land of 1,000 lakes. There are 187,000 lakes in Finland. But among these cultural and natural marvels are also a group of grandmothers who are leading a movement for climate action and change. My guest who will be joining me today is a research professor at the Finnish Institute for Health and Welfare, and also one of the founders of Activist Grannies. She's in her early 70s and has 4 grandchildren, and is very passionate about our changing planet. We will learn some of the wisdoms that come from Granny Power and the solutions they are offering going forward. Grannies Take a Grandstand for Climate Change starts now.
Have a question, comment, or show idea? Let us know at bigbluemarble.earth.
From across the seas to Northern Europe, in Helsinki, Finland, we say hello to Helena Kääriäinen. Welcome to the Big Blue Marble Podcast.
Thank you.
So what's the secret there, Helena? Even with COVID, Finland, for the 4th year running, has been declared the world's happiest country by the UN in their World Happiness Report. That's quite an accolade.
Well, apparently it's true because someone says so.
Maybe it's all the loving grannies that are making the country proud.
Yeah, could be.
Could be. So your group is officially called the Aktivistimummot, which is Activist Grannies. Curious, are there no grandpas?
Well, actually, we are not an official organization, so we don't have a membership list or membership fee or anything like that. We are a network. So I don't know who consider themselves as being part of the network. But we have a very active Facebook, and some 6,000 people signed to that Facebook. And of those, maybe 100 or a bit more are grandpapas.
Well, at least you have some. But it's clearly the grandmas are taking charge here.
Yes.
Now, this started about 2 years ago. How did it come about?
About 2 years ago, we started to discuss these things, but 1.5 years ago, we sort of officially started open our website and the Facebook and so on. So most of the time we have actually been affected by the corona. Yes, there were 12 of us, and we call ourselves the founder grannies. And we we all felt that we were worried about the climate change and the biodiversity issues. And we were very worried about the worry, the anxiety, the depression. We all know about Greta Thunberg and her age group who are seriously worried. And there are many young people in Finland who say that they are not going to have children because of this climate change issue. And we felt that it's the only way to fight against, well, why not climate change, but especially for the anxiety, is to do something, to try to do what we can do. But there was another issue also, and that was that some of us were retired and others were approaching to retirement. And we felt that we still had our skills and we had our brain working and we had our networks, and it felt that it would be idiotic to just look at the TV from morning till evening. So we wanted to change the world, and that was the other thing. So to upgrade the grannies.
So when you talk about the team, it's quite a diverse group, in fact, varied experiences and professions, even if they've retired now. Can you highlight a few that are inside this group, sort of the driving force, the key ones?
Some of the key ones, quite a few actually, have been working with communications, for instance, for a company or something. So they are communications professionals, and that was very helpful, especially in the beginning, to create the web page and to get into contact with the media and so on. But they are all possible professions, and I could mention that one of the founder grannies is a child psychiatrist, which we think is important, thinking about the worry and the grandchildren.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure that perspective is a great asset. I'm kind of curious, though, have you ever taken note of what the age range is in the group?
We don't know that exactly either, but I think that the youngest are 40, 50 years old, and they definitely are not yet grannies. And I would guess that the oldest are 85 or something. I don't think we have 100-year-old grannies in the group.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I have to ask you, though, there are millions of grandmothers around the world that look at this chapter in their lives as, and I use in quotes, the golden years, a time to enjoy all that is pleasurable with no timetable. You know, these are the days when you just sort of relax, maybe just spend time with grandkids if you have them. Do any of the members just want to scale back and just be a grandma?
Well, we are grandmas all the time, so we are not, 24 hours activist grannies. No, definitely not. Yes, and I think that people who are retiring have a right to enjoy their life. I just hope that they would understand, and many of us do understand, that enjoying is not the same thing like over-consuming.
So is that part of the mandate then? You know, what are you hopefully ultimately trying to achieve? And maybe you already have when you talk about overconsumption. Are those some of the key messages that you're trying to put out, into the public?
Yes, well, I think that we grannies, we remember time 40, 50 years back. We remember it very well. And it was a good life. and it was much more sort of modest life. So we think that we should have a moderate standard of living instead of asking always more and more. And that's I think that would be an important message, that life is good as it is, or as it was, I would rather say. And we can easily give up some of our sort of bad habits, like for instance traveling is okay, but traveling once every second week for a weekend to Rome is, I think, idiotic. You can enjoy life at home as well.
You know, that's something that we can't relate to for us here in North America, because if we want to go to Rome, we need 2 weeks off minimum for vacation. We spend thousands of dollars. I mean, obviously during COVID, none of that is happening, but it is quite easy for those in Europe. You could get a relatively inexpensive flight and go for a weekend, but maybe there's too much of that.
Yes, I think there's too much of that. And also I think that if somebody wants to go to Rome, it's a good idea to spend there 2 weeks or even 3 or 4 weeks and go around with a train and see the whole country instead of just popping up there and doing some little things and going back.
You know, climate change is a multi-generational problem, but it does not have impact on all generations in the same way. The influence it has on your life will be a little different than mine, and most certainly intensely different than it will be, say, for my children. I have a 6 and an 8-year-old. Some may even say that baby boomers are in part to blame for the mismanagement of climate change. Do you think your generation feels a sense of responsibility?
At least I think we should feel some responsibility. If I think about my life, so it's been every year, it's been sort of better and better, and there have been promises and new opportunities, and then suddenly now it seems that it's kind of stopping, but before the real catastrophe maybe happens, and let's hope that it doesn't happen, before that, I think I'm already died. so really, I think that, yes, or maybe responsibility is not a word, but we've got so much that now it's time to give back.
Is that the sentiment and part of the motivation of what the Activist Grannies are doing? Is that why?
Yes, I'm quite sure, yeah.
And when you go out, when you try to spread your message, are other seniors, whether they're grandparents or not, do they feel the same way, do you think, overall?
I don't know. The problem is often that when you have an idea and a goal and you try to spread it in seminars, as we did before COVID, or in Facebook or Twitter or wherever. So the ones who really are interested in the subject are usually the ones who care. So in a way, we are like missionaries working among the very religious people instead of going to where are those people who don't care. So that's actually a problem, I think.
So do you think that you are making an impact overall? Do you find what is the response? Do you find you have other supporters that have gravitated to what you're trying to do?
Yes, well, at least the other groups that are sort of doing similar things, like professional groups, like, let's say, the Physicians for Climate, or the groups of young people who want to collaborate with us, and so on. So we sort of feel that when we work together, we get more strength and maybe something happens. But of course, so far it's not maybe possible to see a real change in the attitudes at the level of the population. But we hope that the movement will grow. And it seems that it is growing, not only our movement, but all the movements acting towards the same direction.
So what's the end game for the Activist Grannies? How do you know that the job has been done, where you say, we're ready now to close this up? Or do you hope that the momentum just continues to grow?
I don't think it will ever be done. No, not really. But there are different things that we have to do. And I think, well, for instance, just now we have a local election time approaching in Finland. And I think just now the most important message is that we grannies are voting. We definitely are voting, and we will choose candidates who respect these values. But then in our own life, I think an example of enjoying things that do not destroy the globe, it will be it is our goal, and these attitudes are spreading, I believe.
You know, Finland is actually being a global leader in climate action, with a very ambitious goal to make the country carbon neutral by 2035, which is actually 15 years ahead of EU targets. You've reduced fossil fuel use significantly, and also have taken the lead in producing second-generation biofuels. I'm wondering, would you say the people of Finland, your nation's culture, are more in tune overall to our changing planet than maybe some others?
Well, I was studying a recent poll where these kind of questions were asked, and there was 1% of those who replied who said that this is all nonsense and there's no climate change coming. So 1%. That means that 99% of those people replying to the poll believed that this is a serious issue, and more than 50% of those said that they believe that personal choices are important and they have to change. While something like maybe less than 30% said that, well, we are just 5 million and it doesn't matter what we do when compared with China and India and all those countries. So I think this is not a good argument. I think every decision matters.
But what about those from Finland? What do they feel like overall? You know, I mean, obviously with COVID right now, there's no social gathering. You're not sitting at a restaurant or maybe at a cafe and having a discussion. But prior to COVID, what's the feeling? I mean, you have so much to protect in your nation. Is this part of the culture? You know, are your other Finns nature lovers as a whole, would you say?
Well, I would think that most Finnish people have a very special relationship with the forest, for instance, and why not the sea and lakes? But with the forest, I think it's like a religious feeling that you sort of get a very good feeling inside your heart and soul when you go to the forest, for instance, to pick berries or mushroom, or just to look at birds, or go with the grandchildren for a little walk. So that, I think, is an important driver towards being positive for the things that are needed for stopping climate change.
And for those who may not be familiar with the geography of Finland, blanketed by thick forest, actually one of the most densely wooded nations in Europe. You have 40 national parks, and also, I found interesting, recorded some of the cleanest air in the world. So I guess that's part of the incentive for fellow Finns. Do you think you could gauge on what they fear most about climate change and what's happening on our planet? Is there one thing in particular, a common thread that you think that they fear most?
I think it's a fear of unknown very much, that we sort of feel that it might be horrible, but it's hard to imagine what it would be. One thing that people are afraid, at least a certain part of Finns are afraid, is that there would be huge amounts of refugees from the countries that are no more places where a human being can live. And that will definitely happen, of course. But mostly it's, yes, and very many people are afraid of the biodiversity issues, that we would lose, for instance, the bees and other insects that are absolutely necessary for our living, for our food production, and so on. So there are different things. On the other hand, there are people who are happy for living in Finland, and they say that this is such a cold country that it will affect us less than the others.
So what is the strategy? I'm assuming as a group you collectively look at some of the issues and then try to figure out a path to relay some solutions, or at the very least awareness.
Well, yes, we have subgroups who plan separate seminars. But one thing is that we often sort of blame the men. They have the big cars and they eat a lot of meat, and they are it's all their fault. They are making the decisions. But actually, I think that females are really have really a lot to learn considering consumption, because we buy a lot of cosmetics and clothes that are made with the thought that they are not. There is no plan that they would last, but they are just for one or two parties and then they are gone. So we really think that, for instance, buying a new dress could be a great thing, like it has been earlier, maybe at the time of my granny, a big thing that you really think seriously and you buy the most lovely dress you ever can imagine, and then you can use it many times in many parties. So this kind of thinking.
Practical thinking.
Practical, yes.
How do you convince, though, the younger generation to scale back some of their consumption? How do you get that message through? And I really wonder, in terms of the digital world, the younger generation, millennials, perhaps even more so Generation Z, Generation Z, those born after 1996, that have mastered creating their own spotlight or platform now. And it never existed before, all because of social media. Last summer, in fact, was dubbed by some as the summer of activism, digital activism. Young people demanded to be heard. And one of the calls to action was, of course, to climate change. But how do well-intended grannies get their message out?
So you mean that we are juniors in the social media landscape, maybe?
Maybe not. You tell me.
No. I don't think we are. I think we have at least some experience. And then we have very, very good IT support in our children and grandchildren. So that's not a problem, actually. Yes, and one thing that I really have to tell you is that when you have some ideas in the Twitter, for instance, then there's the sort of ugly response also. There are people who are saying stupid things and protesting and humiliating you in many ways. And that's never happened to us. And we somehow feel that maybe the word granny is somehow sacred because everybody has had a granny. And so how could you sort of say bad things about a granny?
Well, it sounds like you were getting the respect that you all deserve.
Yes.
And hey, if others want to feel that kind of love and join your cause, do you have to be a certain age or be a grandparent to join? And can they join internationally?
Here in Finland, you can be of any age and you don't have to have children, and not to talk about grandchildren. You just have to have the granny spirit. And it's the same for anybody anywhere in the world. The problem is, of course, that our language is not very well known, and most of the things, for instance, most of the blogs on our website are in Finnish, unfortunately. But if we would understand that there is a need for English language in our work, so we would start it immediately. We have members from abroad, but they're usually members who are originally Finns.
I read in one article that your group also hands out wool socks to supporters. Is that true?
For people who came to give lectures to us, so instead of saying that how many hundreds of euros we have to pay, we gave woolen socks. Yeah.
And were they hand wool socks?
Of course.
Well, maybe Greta Thunberg should try that.
No, she belongs to a different group and she has to have different sort of tools for...
Well, you may be right there, but I think it's absolutely wonderful. Good for you. And just before we wrap up, Helena, what do the grandkids say? What's their reaction to the efforts being done by these super grannies?
My grandchildren are still quite young, but those grannies who have teenager grandchildren tell that they are really proud. They're really proud of their grannies, and they say it's great to know that you do your best. And I really hope that when my little ones grow a little bit older, they will also sort of respect that part of my being.
Well, it has been so wonderful to have you share your story today, and I hope it inspires others to make the commitment and forge action for change, just like your group has. Maybe there are some other grandmas and grandpas listening now, and they're thinking, hey, we could do this in our own country, and it really will be propelled.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Well, we wish you continued success. Thank you so much, Helena.
Thank you.
Helena Kääriäinen has been my guest. She's a research professor at the Finnish Institute for Health and Welfare, based in Helsinki, Finland, and of course is also a proud member of the Activist Grannies. And by the way, I'll post a link to their website in today's show notes if you want to take a look. Some of it is in English. And who knows, maybe in the future there'll be other chapters, if you will, of Aktivistimummot, Activist Grannies. And as we wrap up, lots of updates I want to quickly share with you. Firstly, we just sent out our latest newsletter, and it is amazing to see so many subscribers across the continent, not only listening to our show, but also getting the newsletter and catching up on a number of articles. If you're listening to us right now from the U.S., thank you. We have many readers in California, Georgia, New York, Florida, just to name a few. Of course, across Canada and beyond overseas. You can subscribe on our website at bigbluemarble.earth. Of course, it's free, and we send it out once a month, and it highlights stories about our changing planet. Really, it's just a good, neat read. And of course, this episode of this podcast will also be available on YouTube. We have there as well our Blue Files Extended Edition. Again, that is the full video web series. You can find the link on our website or just under YouTube under Anwar Knight. But also, as some of you know, I host a Facebook live stream show. It's called Here and There. And it is a lot of fun. I'm humbled by the viewers who come and join me and keep me company each Friday. I stream live at noon every Friday. Right now, we're doing the stay-at-home version. But we will resume exploring unique green spaces in various towns all across the GTA when we are permitted to do so. The lockdown is still in place, stay-at-home orders until it looks like mid-May for now. But if you're learning about the show for the first time, hey, come join us. The goal here is just to have some fun. It's a much-needed distraction during these crazy times, and the real magic is that we get to interact in real time during the show. So again, come join me. It's on my Facebook page. You could find it at Anwar Night TV, and we stream live Friday at noon every Friday, and I look forward to having your company there. I'll put a link, by the way, in today's show notes as well. On that note, I ask you to kindly please like and follow my pages, subscribe to the podcast, the YouTube channel. The reality is, without sponsorship, we won't be able to continue the vast productions that we are doing. So by you subscribing, following, and liking, it continues to build the product up. We get sponsorship and we can grow, and everybody benefits. So I thank you in advance for your amazing support. Until next time, my friends, I'm Anwar Knight, wishing you a great day on the Big Blue Marble.
That was another great show, Daddy.